Welcome to Matrix Stats Part 1. I'm Mike Connors and I'll be your host for this segment. In this video, we'll cover the general overview, overall layout and workflow of the stats screen, and all of the preset stats. So let's get started. As you can see, we're already logged into your Matrix system. We'll make the assumption that you've already got a basic understanding of how Matrix works, how to search for properties, and so forth. The statistics functions are very similar in the way that they operate as the property searches. You'll notice that the Stats tab is third from the left at the top. It's just a matter of clicking on the Stats tab to open up your Stats screen. Once you're on your Stats screen, you'll notice that you've got 3 tabs to the left, 3 tabs to the right, and a criteria section in the center. You've got 7 system presets. So it's simply a matter of picking the particular stat function you'd like to run and plugging in your criteria, and off you go. You can also customize your stat functions. We're not going to get into customizing stat functions in this particular video. However, it provides you more flexibility, greater range of time frames, and so forth. And the third tab allows you to save your statistical functions for later use, similar to the way that you would save a search. Okay, in reviewing the available criteria here, it's immediately apparent that there aren't as many fields presented here as there would be on a standard matrix search. You do have a map search, though, exactly the same as you do in Matrix for searching, where you can frame your geographical area using a polygon, a rectangle, or a circle or radius. You also have the radius search around a specific point, and that can be a prominent point on the map, or it could be a specific address. So if I wanted to search within a mile of Tulane, or I wanted statistics from within a mile of Tulane or the Superdome, I could enter that here. I'm not going to use the map search at all. I'm just going to click on property type and request residential properties. From dwelling type, I'm going to select all the types but condominium, so I'm going to click condominium not, so just don't want condominiums in my statistics. I'm going to select that my statistics have to come from Orleans Parish. And then as I review the screen, I notice that perhaps there are fields that I want to use that aren't on the screen. So how do I deal with that? Well, it's the same as you would in a matrix search. You go down to the bottom of the screen where additional fields is, and you just click on add, and then a host of other fields that aren't present on the screen are presented to you, and it's strictly a matter of you finding the fields that you want to use and adding them to your search criteria. So I'm going to select full and half baths here, and then just add them to the screen, and there they are. And they'll remain there until I take them away. So the next time I come in to do statistical searches, they'll remain there, just as they would be on a normal standard matrix search. If I want to remove them, and I'm going to do that here, I just click on remove, and it's just a reversal of the process. Remove the fields, and the fields are gone. So when you're working with the preset stat functions, the process of entry essentially ends when you've loaded your criteria. Once you've loaded your criteria, you determine which statistic you want to run. And in this particular case, I'm going to run original price versus sold price. Click generate, and here's my statistic presented to me in a chart, in chart format. There's a recapture of all of my criteria down at the bottom of the screen, and then I can just review the statistics. I can jump from the chart over to the data or back to the search criteria. So if I wanted to change the criteria and regenerate it, I could do that. Again, it's very similar to the way that you migrate between tabs in a matrix search. If I'm clicking on data, what's presented to me is the same results, however, not in a graphical orientation. This is strictly in more or less a spreadsheet presentation. And in many cases, it's actually easier to read the data and make determinations based on the data than it is on the charts. And if you want to, as you can see, you can export these out as a comma separated value file, CSV file, which is easy to import into most commonly Excel. And then you can do whatever you might want to do with the data once you've exported it and then imported it elsewhere. And again, you can just migrate between the tabs, change the criteria, regenerate the report, look at the data, look at the chart, bounce back and forth as much as you'd like. If you want to email the chart or print the chart, it's strictly a matter of clicking on the specific icon. I'm clicking on the print icon, and as you can see, it pulls up the chart to print, but then I can also opt to print the data along with the chart. I can hide the chart, I can hide the data, I can print only the data, only the chart. It's strictly a matter of what I'd like to print. If you decide you want to email your statistics out to your client, it's the same dialog as you would use to send matrix listings. You can select from your contact list by clicking on to. You can enter the specific email address in if you'd like to. You can include the tabular data, which is that charted data or that spreadsheet formatted data in addition to the graphical orientation. Type in your message, click send, and the message is gone. Here's how the message is received. It's received as a link like any other matrix email, and it's presented in the portal format. So this is the particular portal format that I use. And you'll see here's the charted data up top, and below that, because I had checked the box, you'll see the tabular data. And beneath that, the criteria is recapped for me. Back on the statistics screen, you can essentially see how easy it is to generate statistics just by clicking on the particular statistic you'd like to use. We've already got our criteria loaded, so if we want to run that criteria through another statistic, all we have to do is click on that particular statistic and click generate. And you can see that all it is a matter of proceeding down the list and picking the particular statistic you want to run with the criteria that you've already entered and just moving from one statistic to the next. The question though becomes, what are you actually getting when you run these statistics? So in order to understand a little bit more clearly about what you're getting with these system presets, we need to cover a little bit of some basics. Okay, so a few definitions are in order. Most of these you probably already know, but it helps to review them anyways. Median. We use median in quite a few of our statistical functions, and the median of a group of n numbers is the number such that just as many numbers are greater than it as are less than it. So, for example, in the series 1, 10, 17, 20, and 25, the median is 17, as it falls directly in the middle of that series. In the event the group of n numbers is an even set, the median is the average of the two numbers closest to the middle. Let's look at average. The average, or arithmetic mean, of a group of n numbers is the sum of the numbers divided by n. Using the previous set of numbers, 1, 10, 17, 20, and 25, n equals 5, there are 5 numbers in the series, 1 plus 10 plus 17 plus 20 plus 25 equals 73. We divide that by 5 to come to 14.6. The average is 14.6. Current price. In Matrix, the current price is the price currently occupying the price field. For example, current price for an active listing is the list price. Current price for a sold listing is the sold price. As you may have guessed from their title, the 7 preset stat functions have settings that are preset that determine how far back they'll go. And that separates them from the customized stats, which allow you to enter your own intervals. So ADOM versus list price median, current price to square foot ratios, and historic count of active listings. Those three will regress for the last 5 complete years to the present. The historic sales by year will regress for the last 6 complete years. The historic sales price trend will regress for the last 10 complete years. The original price versus sold price will regress for 1 year, and the sale price to list price ratio will regress for the last 5 complete years to present. And that's all preset and automated. So let's take a look at the 7 preset stat functions in a little more detail. First up is ADOM versus list price median. What is ADOM? The number of days a listing was in an on-market status. ADOM versus list price is strictly concerned with sold listings. Takes into account the median days on market against the median list price and examines their relational central tendency. When clicking on Generate, the chart provides a visual graphic of the relationship. The green line representing days to sell median and the blue line representing the list price median. By hovering above the data points, you reveal the specific details for a particular month. But hovering over each data point on a chart that represents a 5-year period can get a little cumbersome. So you may find it easier if you just click on the Data tab in the upper right. That will present the same statistic, the same data, in a tabular format. It displays each month, and for each month, the days to sell median and the list price median. And generally is much easier to read than the chart, albeit it's not as pretty. And just a reminder too at the bottom, you can export this chart as a CSV file out to Excel if you want to do further analysis. Once you're done looking at the data, you can click back to the chart or click back to the search, review the criteria, you can email it, you can print it, or if you prefer, you can just move on to the next statistical function, which is precisely what we're going to do. Moving to number 2, current price to square foot ratio. This particular stat examines the current price to the square footage for all listings regardless of status with a list date in the past 5 years. And again, hovering above the data point displays the values for the current month and the current year. Again, we can click on the Data tab to review the data in the tabular format. We can go back to the search, or we can just simply go back and run the next stat function. The historic count of active listings is simply the count of active listings for the past full 5 years to the present time. You can hover above the data points on the area chart to review the volume for that particular month and that particular year, or typically click on the Data tab to look at that data represented in tabular format. And just a reminder that we're still using our original criteria here. So we're just looking at residential listings in Orleans Parish. So if the numbers seem a little bit low to you, it's because we haven't changed our criteria. Okay, moving out to our 4th preset stat function, historic sales by year. Again, using the same criteria, Orleans Parish, residential, we get 6 years worth of historic sales. And the chart is a rather frenetic looking chart. We've got a lot of lines here, each one representing a single year, 6 years in total. If there was ever an excuse to prefer tabular data over a chart, this chart is one of them. As you can see, if you look at the tabular data, it's much easier to read what occurred in each month in each year as opposed to hovering over the particular data points on the chart itself. However, that's a matter of preference, and again, as you can with any of these preset functions, you can include both the chart and the tabular data in emails and in prints. Next up, we have the historic sales price trend. And this historic sales price trend provides 10 years of sale price data given your criteria. So we start out on the tabular data sheet simply because we left the tabular data sheet on the prior stat function. So that's why we're starting here as opposed to the graphical chart. So we can simply move to the graphical chart to take a look at that. And we'll just see that tabular data represented in a chart where, again, you can just hover above the data points to take a look at the specific details for a given year, given month. Next up, we're looking at original price versus sold price, and this simply takes the original price median and compares it to the sale price median. So again, it's taking the original price, not the last listing price, but the first listing price that was entered upon input. And it's reporting on the sales within the past year. So again, comparing the original price to the sale price. Once again, we can review that in the tabular data as opposed to the chart format, whichever you prefer. And last but not least, we come to the sale price to list price ratio stat. This is simply the sale price divided by the list price, reported for the last 5 full years to present. And here we've got the chart displayed, and again, you can hover above the data points, or if you prefer, you can click on the data tab and review the data in the tabular format. But again, it's just simply the sale price divided by the list price and providing that percentage for that given month and that given year. Just a reminder, you can export this data out as a CSV file. You can email it, you can print it, you can send both the chart and the data. Strictly up to you. One last item that we'll cover is the Save tab. As I mentioned earlier, the stat functions are very similar to the search functions. And in a very similar manner in which that you would save search criteria as a search for recall later, so too you can save out a stat function for recall later. You simply have to give it a name, just as you would give a search name, and you certainly want to give it a name that will define the type of statistic that you're running. You'll want to save your criteria with it so that you can recall the criteria along with the search. And when you do that, one extra option that you have here that you also have when you save searches is that you can save your stat function out to a widget on your home page so that you can access that particular stat function directly from your home page. It's very quick and very easy. So the save option works with both the preset stats and with the custom stats that we'll get into in the next video on statistics. Okay, let's do a quick review of what we've covered. There are 7 preset stat functions. They each have a predetermined interval for which they will return data. You can load criteria in the same manner in which you load criteria in a property search. You can add fields not currently present from the Add option at the bottom of the screen, just as in a property search. You can use the map, just as you can in property searches. The results are presented in both a graphical chart and a tabular data format. Hovering above various data points on the chart will reveal the data for that particular point. You can export the data to a CSV file at the bottom of the Data tab screen. Both the chart and the data can be emailed. Both the chart and the data can be printed. An emailed statistic is presented in the portal format and can be accessed for 30 days. You can save your stat function with its criteria by clicking on the Save tab. Saved stat functions can be saved out to the home page for quicker future access. There's also a battery of custom stats that we'll go over in Part 2, and as a bonus, everything you've learned here will apply in Part 2. Any questions? Just contact your local CoreLogic staff at nomsupport@corelogic.com. Thanks for watching.